2020 is finally coming to an end. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as we all know, 2020 is finally coming to an end. And what do most of us do at the end of every year before the start of a new one? We set goals. And I don't know how many of you stick to your goals every year, but I know for me, it's always a little bit of a challenge. So this year I've really dedicated myself to planning out my goals in a really specific way that I wanted to share with you today that hopefully can help you to reach your goals in the new year. And obviously you can set goals any time of the year, whenever you want. I just know how common it is for new year, new goals, all that stuff. So let's get into it and talk about how you can set realistic and attainable goals for yourself as well. So obviously there are a bunch of different ways you can set goals and a lot of different methods. So if you have any other suggestions that I don't mention today, please feel free to leave some in the comments so that I can see them and everyone else can as well, so we can all achieve our goals together. But the first thing I want to talk about is breaking up your goals into categories. It's not very efficient to say I want a house, a spouse, and a brand new car all in one goal. It's more helpful to break them out into categories and steps. Your categories could be personal, financial, material, career, or hobbies, just as a few examples. Once you've broken your goals down into these categories, it's easier to create actual steps that you can take to reach your goals. So how do you do that? One way is good old research. For example, if you know you want to buy a house, look up how much houses that fit your needs are selling for right now. Look up how much you would need to put down on a down payment. Look up how to find a real estate agent, etc., etc. And once you do that research, you can actually write those steps down to break up a very large goal, such as buying a house, into smaller steps that you can actually see, which makes them feel a little bit more attainable instead of just so broad. Another way is talking to your family and friends. If you decide that this year you want to make the move from your corporate job to working in fashion, tell all of your family and friends that you want to do this and ask if they know anybody that they could put you in contact with. Networking is timeless. Sharing your goals with anyone can be scary. It can feel super vulnerable and you could be worried about their reactions. But make sure that you're so confident that telling others, even with the possibility that they might try to dissuade you from following your dreams, won't stop you from following your gut. Another way is to do some soul searching. Look into your past and see what hasn't worked for you before or what has worked for you. For example, if you've been meeting all of your exes at the same place for the past 5 years and you hate all of them, maybe this year you can make a plan to go somewhere new, to try to meet new people. Once you set your action plan, try to remove obstacles or barriers that will prevent you from working toward your goals. You may not be able to remove all of the obstacles, but try your best to evaluate them now so they're easier to work around if they do arise down the road. Put your goals in writing. You can type them out if you want, but if you do, print them out. Having a tangible thing that you can hold in your hands and look at, I believe, is a really important first step. It can make your dreams and your goals feel a little bit less imaginary, like they're just in your head, when you see them on a piece of paper. Like maybe you don't have $50,000 to put down for a down payment on a house, but you have a piece of paper that says $50,000 on it as your goal, and really a check is just a piece of paper with a number on it. You see what I mean? It's kind of like the first step to making something that was once in your imagination into reality. Be realistic, but don't be afraid to have goals that seem like a stretch. For example, if you want to be elected president in 2024, but you're only 18, that's not a realistic goal. So you're gonna have to think about steps you can take to get there, like maybe going to school to study political science, and maybe that's your goal instead. The same goes for money. If you're working at a job and you're making $50,000 a year and you plan to stay at that job and in the same role, it's probably unrealistic to say, I want to ask for a raise so that I'm making $1 million a year moving forward. So instead, you might need to figure out some other ways you can make money and try to adjust the number so it's a little bit more realistic so you're not just setting yourself up for failure. Give your goals a time limit or don't. This one is complete personal preference. I personally believe that life is a marathon and not a sprint. For example, if you really want to lose 50 pounds, maybe it takes you a year or 2 years, but isn't it better to do that and then live the rest of your years healthier and happier than trying to set a goal of losing the weight in 6 months, and if you don't do it, you just give up on yourself? That's something that I personally believe in, but you might be different. On the other side, you might not be motivated unless you have a time limit or a deadline to do something. But again, it's important to be realistic about your timeline. And if you don't know what a realistic timeline for the goal that you want is, again, you always have Google. Set check-ins with yourself, and these can be quarterly, monthly, whatever you want them to be. You wouldn't plant a flower in your garden and just leave it and never look at it ever again. You know, you're gonna go water it, you're gonna see if it's getting enough sunlight, maybe it's not, maybe you need to move it to a different spot in your garden that gets a little bit more light or a little bit more shade depending on the plant. But the same goes for your goals. Don't just write them down and never look at them again. Set checkpoints for your progress to see if what you're doing is even working, and if it's not, try something else. Try to see if there's any variation or variable that you could tweak to set yourself up for success. But also, if something isn't working, don't just give up immediately. And this kind of goes back to setting realistic timeframes for yourself. Maybe the time frame you set for yourself wasn't realistic. Maybe it wasn't realistic to start a $1 million business in a month. So make sure you're looking into that as well if something isn't working for you so that you can adjust and move forward accordingly. And finally, celebrate your wins. It's so easy, especially in this social media day and age, to feel like we're not doing enough or that we're not good enough or our life isn't good enough. But all of the little milestones that you reach are little building blocks up to your final masterpiece, your final goal, and you wouldn't get there without those little milestones. So celebrate those as well. If your goal is to save up $20,000 to buy a house, when you reach 5K, celebrate. When you reach 10K, celebrate. 15K, celebrate. And then of course, celebrate really big when you've done what you really wanted to do, but don't forget the little steps along the way. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support. Let me know in the comments what your goals are for the new year. I really hope you achieve them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.